All right. Good day, everyone. Welcome to part three of how to set up Microsoft SQL Server Database Administration Lab. Uh, in parts one and two, we were able to complete steps 1 through 5. So in part three, we will be starting from step 6. No, we'll be covering step 6, 7, 8, and 9, but not necessarily in that particular order. Okay, but pretty much we're going to be installing SQL Server, which is our relational database management system. Um, so I'm just going to install on one of the VMs, one of VM01. I think I'm going to use VM02 because that's what I used in part 2. But whatever I do on VM02, please just repeat the exact same thing on VM01 and VM03. The same thing, I will install the Management Studio on VM02, but do the exact same thing on 02 that I do on 02, do it on VM01, VM03, just not to make this video unnecessarily long. Then we would install the remote desktop connection manager on our computer, the actual computer itself. Then we will create service account that we would use to run the SQL Server service or services. And then we'll also create a user to simulate our maybe a DBA or a sysadmin. Yeah, so service accounts are recommended, highly recommended, uh, to be used to run SQL Server service because they're more secured instead of using the default. So we might end up starting from here because we will need it during the installation of the SQL Server. Then I should mention that everything we've been doing from step 1 through step 5, they are not the responsibilities of a database administrator. These would already exist in any company. All these would already exist in any company. They already have their virtual machines. They already have their Active Directory. But because we are trying to simulate such an environment, so we have to play the role of the infrastructure team as well as play the role of a database administrator. But when you get a job as a DBA, you are not going to be doing all of from step 1 through 5. So your job as a DBA starts from 6, installing SQL Server, installing Management Studio, installing Remote Connection Manager, and then the last one, this will be done by the infrastructure team because a DBA does not have access, typically does not have access on the Active Directory. So there's no way you'll be able to create service accounts and then users. So step 9 will be done by the sysadmin, or they call them the infrastructure team. So this is basically what the DBA will be doing. Not the only thing, but out of all these steps, these are the responsibilities of the DBA. The other ones are done by the infrastructure team. But because this is our lab, we don't have the infrastructure team. So we have to be the infrastructure team or the sysadmin and then also be the DBA at the same time. Okay, so don't get scared or worried like, oh, you don't know how to do all this VM, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what you're going to be doing. Okay, we are just trying to set up a lab for you to work on, but these would already exist in the company. Okay, all right, so let's get started. So let's get on our VMAD and then create a service account and a user. So I'm going to pull up my VMware. I think he already logged me out. So I'm going to show you this. If you don't want it to keep locking you out too frequently, we can change the sleep setting. So let me sign in first. Make sure you always remember your password. Oh, okay. See, I was just saying that and I typed the wrong password. Alrighty. So pull up the server manager. By now, we should be familiar with the icon of the server manager. This briefcase right here. Okay. Click on it. Double click to pull it up and come to tools on the top right. Come down to Active Directory users and computers. Click on it. So these are the computers that we have added to this domain. Remember, you have to do for VM03 too. So it must be all three of them in this domain. But I haven't done that yet. But you should do that. I'm going to do that later, but I'm not going to put that in this recording. So we are creating a service account. So a service account, for the most part, we can create a managed service account. So one thing about managed service account is that they don't have passwords. You don't need passwords. The password is already in the AD. You don't need password whenever you try to use them. But we are going to create a simple one. We're going to create a service account just like a user. We're not going to use a managed service account. So this is where we're going to create a user, and this is also where we're going to create a service account. Okay. So to create a service account or a user, there are two different things. Service account is an account that is being used to run services. For example, SQL Server service. A user will be like an employee of the company. For example, a system administrator or a database administrator. So they are two different things. But they are created, you can create them in the same way. So right click on users, go to new, come down to new user. So I'm going to create a service account to run the SQL Server service on VM02. I'm going to give it this name. Let me give it SVC. SVC means service account underscore SSMS 02. Okay, this is the name I'm going to give it. So SVC means service account underscore SSMS means SQL Server Management Studio 02. I'm using 02 because I want to create it for VM02. Okay, and remember, excuse me. Excuse me. So I said whatever we do on VM02, do the same thing on VM01. So when you are creating the service account from VM01, please use 01 here. And when you're doing for VM03, use 03. So each VM should have a separate or different service account. Each database server should have a separate or different service account. Don't use the same service account for all three, please. That's bad practice. All right. Then here, I'm going to type this name here again. And then give it this. So then I'll click next. You see, I didn't put a last name here because this is not an actual person. Okay, it's not an actual individual, so there's no need to put a last name. You have to put a password there. Because it's a lab, we don't have anything secure there. I'm going to use password never expires. But remember, you're not going to be doing this at work. This will be done by the system administrator. So they know the best practice to follow when creating a service account. So they would not use password never expires. Okay, or they'll use something more secure. So put a password. Make sure you use a password you would easily remember. Okay, and they must match. Next, finish. See, we just created a service account. Even though it says it's a user, but it's still a service account. Okay, so let's create a user now to simulate. So we're going to create two users actually. We're going to create a user to simulate or act as our system administrator. Oh, we already have that actually. This is our system administrator. So we already have this. Sorry, my bad. We already have an administrator. That's how we log into this VM as an admin. So that's the system administrator. So we need one for the DBA. So right click, new user. Then so our DBA would be, let's use Ade. Ade is the first name and the last name is DBA. This is not real, right? Okay. Then how do you want the logon name to be? So I would different companies use different style. So some company will use the first name dot the last name. Some will use first name underscore the last name, or some will just merge both together. So it depends. But we are just merging them together and saying ADDBA. You can use whatever you like, but if you want to be consistent, please stick to this. All right. So next, you see that here we have a last name because this is an actual. We are creating this for an actual person. When you get a job, when you start working, you would have an email, and this is will be your email, or you have a user ID. So this is how they set up your user ID for you, even before you start. This is how you log into computers, log into all those things that you use at work. Password, use a password. So I'm going to use the same Nova Express so that I don't have to worry about changing password every time. But normally at work, your password will expire. Maybe some companies will say every 3 months you have to change your password. Some 6 months, some 9 months. It depends on how security conscious the company is. Because this is a lab, so we're just trying to keep it simple. All right, finished. Bam. So we have completed step 9. Okay, step 9 done. Now let's go back to step 6. So we need to install SQL Server. So that means it's a software. So we need that executable software for us to install it. Remember I gave you, so the access to this Google Drive, it's available. It will be in the caption of the YouTube page where this video will be uploaded. So you can have access to this Google Drive to download the SSMS if you want. But you can also download directly online. You don't have to use what is in here. You can, because at the time of recording this video, what I have here is 18.2, but now they already have the SSMS 19. So let's go grab that actually. So go to Google and go to SSMS download. Just type it there, and it will take us to Microsoft web page, and we can download the latest version. See that? 19.0.1. So click on it and it's free. So currently downloading. So let's save it. I'm going to save it here. This is where I'm going to be putting my stuff. So I'm going to put it here. So let me change the name. And this is 19. So we'll need that. Also, since we are going to be installing the management studio, that's the management studio. SQL Server itself, yeah, we can grab that from, because we are using, oh yeah, that was for the management studio. You can grab that online to get the latest version. But the SQL Server we are using, let's come back to our page here. See, we are using the 2016 version. That's what we're using. And that is already available here. Let me see. Okay, it's right here. This one. This is the one we are using. 2016 evaluation. So this might take a while to download. I should have downloaded this earlier. But let's see. So when you're trying to download it, you will get this prompt. Just click download anyway. It's not going to harm your computer. So click on save as to put it where you want it to be. So I want to put it here. Yeah, the name is descriptive enough, so I'm not going to change the name. I'm just going to click save. Okay, looks like it's gonna be. Oh, it's the 2014 that is pretty slow. This is fast. So that's done. Awesome. All right. So now we have SQL Server downloaded, not installed yet, just downloaded. We have the Management Studio downloaded. Then another thing that we need to download is the Desktop Connection Manager. That is also available here. Yeah, this is it right here. This RDC man. But the last time I modified this was August 2022. So there's probably a newer version now. This software, SSMS and this one, you can use the current version at any time. But for the purpose of this lab, we are sticking to SQL Server 2016. The reason is because we also want to upgrade it from 2016 to 17. So that's why we're studying at 2016. And a lot of features were added in 2016. So we want to be able to benefit that during the bootcamp. All right, so let's go grab the remote desktop connection manager online. We could use this, but let's just use a newer or the latest version. So go to Google and just type remote desktop connection manager. It's right here. Click on it. Yeah, it's right here. Microsoft web page. Click on it. And this is the latest version right here. So click download and then save as and then put it in here. Yeah, it comes as a zip folder. We're gonna unzip it later, but let's leave it at that. All right, so it looks like we have everything we need. So now let's proceed to installation. So we're gonna start off by installing SQL Server. Then we'll do the SQL Server Management Studio. Then we'll do the remote desktop connection manager. So I'm going to go back to my VMware. To prevent this guy from logging us or locking us out, let's change the sleep setting. So on the bottom right or bottom left, click on that Microsoft icon, come to search, type sleep. See? So then click on change when the computer sleeps. So turn off display. So it will turn off display every 10 minutes. We don't want that because we don't want to have to put in the password to sign in every time. So change this to never. So never, never. Make both of them never and then save it. So now it's not going to kick me out again, even if there's no activity on it. So I'm going to VM02. I'll do the same. But first, I want to sign in. Okay. So, but this setting that I'm doing, so go to the Microsoft icon again in the bottom left, type sleep. It may take a while for it to pop up, but it will pop up eventually. Click change when the computer sleeps and change this to never. So this settings works for the current user. Remember, I'm logged in as an administrator. So this setting is only working for an administrator. If another person logs into this computer, it's not going to work for that person. But when you are, remember I said installing SQL Server, the Management Studio, and the remote desktop connection, those are the responsibilities of a DBA. But currently, we are connected or logged in into these VMs as an admin. So a system administrator does not install SQL Server. Ideally, that's the job of a DBA. So we have to let the DBA or give the DBA access to connect to this VM and then start his or her job. Okay, remember we created a user as a DBA, so we are going to use that right now. So we have to. So as a DBA, when you're working, especially when you're working remotely, they will give you a computer. Your company, your company most likely may not be in the same state where you are. maybe working remotely, even if it's the same state, if you are not going to be connecting directly to the VM, you are going to be remotely connecting to the VM. So anything I do on the VMware workstation is directly working on the VM. But at work, in real life, you don't work directly on the VM. You connect remotely. The only people that would, for the most part, work directly on the VM are the infrastructure team because they take care of this. They are the system administrators, so they manage them. But as a DBA, you'll be connecting remotely. So we would start off with installing the remote connection manager. Okay, I need to rearrange the order of these steps. We will start off with the remote desktop connection manager installation. So let's go grab that file that we downloaded. It's right here. Remember, this is it right here. So right click and then zip it, extract. Yep, so this is what we need here. So double click on it. So those are the stuff I created earlier. So when you double click on it, this is what you get. Okay. Remember, I'm doing this directly on my computer. This is not on the VM. This is on my actual computer. So right click here on the taskbar and pin it to taskbar so that I don't have to search for it anytime, any other time. So if I mistakenly close, if I intentionally or unintentionally close it, it's already here. So I can just click on it and to bring it back up. So this is how we are going to be connecting to our VMs through this software. You see, remote desktop connection manager. It helps us to manage how we remotely connect to those VMs. We are not going to be working directly on VMware workstation. Because let's say you are in New York, your VM, and let's say your company is in California. All these VMs, they will most likely be in California or in a different data center. So you will not have access to even work on them directly. You have to connect remotely to them. Okay. So we're going to minimize this for now. And this is what we're going to be working with. Sometimes I might need to go there to do some settings, but for now, we're going to be working from the remote desktop connection manager. So now, let's play the role of a sysadmin. Let's play the role of a sysadmin that will remotely connect, even though they have access to work directly, but let's just try to do everything from here. So I'll come here, go to File, create a new file, and in this, let me put it, I have it on my D drive. All right, so I'm going to name this infrastructure. Should I name it infrastructure team or system admin? Infrastructure. Let me use sysadmin. I'll use system admin. Okay. So now I want to play the role of a sysadmin. Okay. So system administrators, they connect to the VMs like this too. It's not every time they will work directly on the VM. They connect remotely sometimes because sometimes they work from home as well. Okay. So now this is this will be my folder or file for to connect as a sysadmin, but I have to add the VMs that I want to connect to. So in order to add the VMs, after creating this file, right click on the name, click add server. Okay. And then here you're going to add the name of the server. The first server you're adding is VMAD. Okay. So this is the name of the computer we're adding. It's the same thing as using this guy, this remote desktop. This one is just better because it helps you to manage multiple. This one you can only use one at a time. So yeah, It's almost the same thing as using this, but this is better because it helps you to manage, in a more efficient way. So I prefer to use the connection manager than to use this one that comes with the Windows OS. So this is the server name. So how do we log in? You have to come here and create your logon credentials, because I've used this in the past. So you might see some profile here, but if you are doing yours for the first time, this will be empty. You don't see anything here. So come here. Yeah, this thing, they don't go away. Even when I uninstalled and deleted everything, they just don't go away. But to do this, you will see, if you are doing this for the first time, you will see custom. Click on that. Now, what is my username? Remember, I'm playing the role of an admin. So when I'm logging in from the VMware, I use this guy. Remember, when I try to log in, I would log in. Let me show you. If I go to VMware now and I lock it and I lock. So if I want to connect now, see, this is how I log in, right? Yeah, so this exact same credential is what I'm trying to replicate on the connection manager. So administrator, I'll put the password. So when we do this, we will save this credential and we don't have to type it every time. Unlike VM, if you're working directly, you have to type the password every time you want to log in. But if you put it like this, you save it, it will just use it automatically. So click on save, then use this name, then I'll keep it like this. It will say it already exists because I have it there initially. But yours, if you're doing it for the first time, you won't see this prompt. So just already do yes, and then okay, and click add. So now here I can just, as a sysadmin now, I will just double click. Is either you double click to connect or you right click and click connect server. Either one. Remember, I'm currently connected directly here. So if you connect on the remote desktop connection manager, it will kick me out of here because you can't connect with the same credential onto the same server twice or more than once. It's not connecting for me. Let's see. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Come back, right click, properties. So I'm going to try to use the IP address. So now, if I need to get the IP address, I have to come here. That's why I said sometimes I might need to come here while I'm still setting it up. So let me get the IP address. This is a DNS issue. Remember how to get IP address, come to search, CMD. IP config, and the IP is, oops. So this is the IP. I'm trying to highlight it, but it's not letting me. 192.168. So 192.168.19.128. Yeah, so if you're unable to connect with the name, use the IP. But here in the display name, you can choose the name you want it to display as. So we are connecting through the IP, but we are going to be seeing the MAD on the side like this, so that we can differentiate what server is what. Because you don't want to put the IP here, then you don't know, if you add other servers, you will not know which server has what IP. So we are using a descriptive name here. We are using the IP to connect here. So let me click OK and then double click to connect. Something not right. Okay, let me try to pause this while I troubleshoot this. All right, so let's troubleshoot this lack of connection together. So it looks like we are being blocked by firewall, but let's confirm that. So if you come to VMAD, if you come to the VMware and connect directly to VMAD, remember when we're setting it up, let's go to the server manager, come to local server on the left pane. Remember I asked you guys to do this. Remember the settings, this guy right here. So this is what enables us to be able to connect remotely to the computer. Although it is enabled, but let's double check. Click on it. Yeah, it says allow remote. So we are good. And make sure this box is not checked. Okay, so we are good on that. So I'm going to cancel. But look at our firewall. Look at our firewall. The firewall is on. The public is on. So this is the reason why we cannot connect remotely. So what we are going to do is to allow the port for remote connection. What is the port for remote connection? So let's come here. So if you come to VMAD, right click, come to properties, come to connection settings. See, this is the port for remote connection, or also known as RDP. RDP means remote desktop protocol. Okay, remote desktop protocol, also known as RDP. So the port for that is 3389, and this is a typical interview question. Remember, this is a typical interview question. During the orientation, I said your interview prep starts from day one, from the time you start setting up your lab. So this is one of the typical interview questions. They will just ask you what is the port for RDP. It is 3389. Because we have our firewall turned on, these ports, they've all been closed or disallowed. So we have to allow this port before we can connect remotely. So let's go do that. So let's go back to VMware directly on this and let's find the firewall. So come to your Windows on the bottom left, type firewall. It's easier if you just turn off the firewall, but it is not safe. It is bad practice. It's not a good practice to turn off. So instead, just allow the port that you need. So come to this, and then you see inbound rules. So we have to make a rule that will allow us to inbound into the server. So new rule, right click on it, click new rule. So we are not creating a rule for program, we are creating a rule for port. And click next. And what is the port? 3389. This is the port number for RDP. So click next, see, allow the connection, next, next, then give it a name. I'll just give it RDP. Okay. And what's the description? Allows user to, you don't have to write this, remotely connect to the virtual machine. But if you want, you can write it so that you won't forget. And click finish. So this will allow us to remotely connect. Some may even, do the outbound rule as well, but I think this should suffice for what we need it for. So now let's go see. After allowing these ports, now let's try to connect. So right click on properties. So we are using the IP address of that server. Okay, the name of the server is not working because we are having a DNS problem. So let's use the IP. Okay, and then double click to connect. See, bam. Now we are able to connect, and we don't have to put in the password because we already set up the credential initially. So we are able to connect. And so once you connect on the remote desktop connection manager, it will disconnect on the VMware. Remember, you cannot connect with the same login more than once to the same server. We disconnect us here as the sysadmin. So let's do for the other servers. So I'll come back, click on system admin again and add a new server. This time we are adding VM02. But the same way we are adding VM02, we would need to add VM01 and VM03. So let's double click on this one. So most likely we will get the same issue that we got for the VMAD. So we need to go and do allow the necessary ports. All right. So now right click, go to properties. Let's use the IP address for VM02 instead of the name. Go to VMware to go fetch the IP. This is VM02, so let's connect to it. Okay. So let's fetch the IP, cmd command prompt. Click on command prompt. My computer is slow. I don't know why. So on the command prompt, type ipconfig. Remember this? When we're doing setting the IP to static. All right. So the IP address is this. This is the IP address here. 192.168.19.130. So come here, 192.168.19.130. So, but we want to be able to identify this with a descriptive name, which is VM02. But we are still using the IP to connect. So even if I double click, I will still not be able to connect using the IP because my firewall is turned on. So it's preventing anybody from remotely connecting. So let's wait to see the error, then we'll go fix that. All right, so now let's go fix it by allowing the port. So pull up firewall on the left, bottom left, type firewall. Click on Windows icon, then type firewall. Then click on Windows firewall with advanced security. You see, so click on inbound rule. So on inbound rules, right click, click new rule, select port because we're trying to allow a particular port. Next. In this case, the RDP port is 2289. You can allow multiple ports. As you can see the example here, but we're just limiting this one to just one port. Next, allow the connection. Next. So we are allowing it for the domain, private and public. Everybody can connect remotely as long as you have access to connect remotely. Then I'll name this RDP as well. Then you can put the same description. Okay, so now let's come back here and then double click to connect. Bam. Once you see this pop up, that means you're allowed to remotely connect. So I don't want this guy to pop up every time I try to remotely connect. So I'm going to check this box. Don't ask me again for connections to this computer. So click yes. So he's signing us in. So as soon as he signs us in here as an admin, it will kick us out on the VMware workstation. See, it's already logged out. So, and you will see what you were doing before. So, because it's the same login. All right, so we can repeat the same thing from VM01 and VM02. But remember, this is playing the role of a sysadmin. Okay, this is playing the role of a sysadmin. But what we are trying to do is to install SQL Server Management Studio. But we've done the connection manager. So what is left is SQL Server Management Studio. But a sysadmin does not do that. A DB has to do that. So we need to create an account, or we need to create a folder on this connection manager to play the role of a DBA. So the same way we did for the sysadmin, come to File, create New, and just type database. I'll do database or just a DB admin. Let me just say DB. Let me keep it simple. DB database might be too long. Okay, I put it there. Database underscore admin. So as a DBA, you don't have access to VMAD. So there's no way you can add VMAD under your list of servers. Nope. So the only servers a DBA would have access to are the database servers. And what are database servers? These are servers that have SQL Server or any other database management system installed on them. There's no SQL Server on VMAD, so a DBA does not have any business. Only the sysadmin or the infra team has access. Okay, so right click on database admin, click add server. For now, I have only my VM02 or VM02 set up. But remember, we can't use the name, we have to use the IP. So, but this is 130. If you use the name on your own, it might work because I have some DNS issues. I need to flush my DNS cache, but I haven't done that yet. Display name will be VM02. So because this is a different, I'm playing a different role now. So I will need a different credential to log in. A DBA cannot use the credential of a sysadmin to log in. So after putting this, come to log on credential, click source, come here. For your own, if you are doing this for the first time, you will see only custom and VM/administrator. Those are the two you will see, but I've done this multiple times, so that's why you see a bunch of stuff here. So now click on custom. So remember our DBA that we created a user for? We said it will be able to log in as Ade. We combine the first and the last name and his password. Let's put the password there. And the domain is VM. Remember our domain is VM. So save. We are using this name. You can choose any name you want to save it as, but I'm using this name. Yeah, it already exists because I've done it before, but you shouldn't get this. Okay, all right, cool. So now let's see what happens when Ade tries to connect remotely to VM02. Double click to connect. What do you get? You get this beautiful yellow error message. It says to sign in remotely, you need the right to sign in through remote desktop services. By default, members of the remote desktop users group have this right. If the group you are in doesn't have the right, or if the right has been removed from the remote desktop users group, you need to be granted this right manually. So when you get a job, the infrastructure team would have to add you to a group known as the local admin group on the database servers. Being in the local admin group will enable you, will give you the administrative rights to connect remotely and do some other things on the server if you need to. But we haven't done that yet. So I wanted you guys to see this error. So now let's go fix that. So all this would have been done by the sysadmin for you. So I have to go and play the role of a sysadmin to fix this problem for the DBA. So come to VM02. I'm playing the role of a sysadmin now. See where I am? You see where I am? This is sysadmin stuff. So I'll come here as a sysadmin. I'll pull up my server manager on that server that the DBA is unable to connect to. Click on tools, click on computer management. I want to add our DBA to the local admin group. So on the left pane, you see local users and groups. Expand it. Click on groups. Then this is the group. So let's look at it. Let's read the description of this group. It says administrators have complete and unrestricted access to this computer. If you belong to this group, you have full access. You can connect remotely, you can delete stuff, you can install stuff, you can do all kinds of stuff. Or you can belong to this group. If you belong to this group, you will just be able to connect remotely, but you cannot do some other stuff. So, but DBAs generally, they give us admin rights on the database server. So let's add a DBA to this group. So double click on this group. See, the only people here in this group are the admin, which is the system administrator. That's why he's able to connect remotely. And then people that are in the domain admins. We are not here. The DBA is usually not here. These two groups, they are usually the infra team because they are the one taking care of the servers in the company. So they need that right. Add. Click on add and then click on add. Come to locations, make sure you can choose the entire directory or choose the specific directory, but don't choose VM02. VM02 is a local server. If you choose VM02, that means you're searching within the server. You're not searching within the server, you're searching the entire directory of the company for ADDBA. So click OK. Come to object types. Remember that ADDBA is a user. So as long as this user is checked, we're good. Then click check names to find that guy. See? It's been found. And click OK. It's been added here. Then just click apply and click OK. So now the sysadmin will now communicate to the DBA that you've been given admin right to connect. So I'm now going back now to play the role of a DBA. So DBA now is trying to connect remotely. So let's see what will happen. Double click. Remember, he wasn't able to connect before, but now he's able to because he now belongs to the admin group. So this is where the work of a DBA starts. This is where the work of a database administrator starts from. Because now you have access to the computer, to the database server. And then you can now install SQL Server and then install Management Studio. Okay? All right. So now remember the software that I need, the SSMS, which is this guy, and the SQL Server. SSMS is Management Studio, and this is the database engine itself. Those two, they are on my host computer. They are on my actual computer, but I need to install them on the VM. So how do I get them across to the VM from the host? Remember we did mapping towards the end of part 2, where we mapped our VM to the host so that we can have access to to files and folders on the host. So that will come in handy right now. So click on the File Explorer, come to Network. So right click on this guy. When you see that it's turned off, turn it on. Do you want to turn on for all network? Say yes. Yes. So now we can see we did this earlier towards the end of part 2. So this is what we need. This is the mapping to the host. So click on share folders. Nothing is here. That's strange. Oh, I renamed I think I renamed the folder. Is that why it lost connection? Hmm. Okay, let's go do it again. So let's go to VMware. So on VM02, this tab right here, right click, click settings, click options, click on options, shared folders. Yeah, because I think I renamed it, that's why. So, but I can always, let's remove it and do it again. So click always, select always enabled, check this box, map as network drive, then click add. Next. So what path on the host do you want to map to? Let's click on browse. I'm mapping to my D drive, D drive, and this folder. This is yours will be different, except you're using the same naming convention as me. But yours may be different. Feel free to name your folders whatever you want to name them. Just remember what they are. So this is the folder where I'm putting all the software that I need. So that's why I'm mapping it to this. So anytime I need something, I'll just go there and grab it. So click on that, next, and finish, and click OK. So see, sometimes I wanted to come here to do some stuff, but I don't have to go into the VM. So minimize this. So let me close this and pull it up again. Pull up my file explorer, click on VMware host, click on share folder, and this is the folder that we map to. So come here, see, these are the two software that we need. So we can access them from the VM, even though they are on the host, which is the actual laptop. So now I can copy them, both of them, select them, right click, copy, and then I'll just come to my download here. I usually put it in download and then paste. All right, so now I've copied from the host to the VM. I don't want to have to install them over the network. So I have them locally now on the VM. So now let's do the installation. I think this is a good way to end this part so that the installation will just come in a different parts. Okay. All right. So I'll see you guys in part 4. Thank you for watching.